top of the wind. I'm here with another video, and this time it's going to be on the Capri. I've learned some interesting stuff about it in the past few days, so yeah, why don't we kind of walk around it and I'll tell you what I've learned. So, my initial thoughts with this thing, like first we'll start with under the hood here, which, hang on a second. There we go. So looking under the hood, okay, we see this 302, which I knew this 302 was here. I didn't know what it was out of or anything like that. I didn't know if this was originally a V8 car. Initially I thought because of, there's this sticker on here that says it's a 2.3, I thought that, okay, that this is a 2.3 car. But I was wrong, because after kind of thinking about it more and looking at it, this has the dual snorkels out of the fenders, which on a non-V8 car, it only have it, I believe, on the passenger side. So we can deduce that this was at least a V8 car before this, and this engine is not original to the car. At least don't think so, because that is a, I believe, an 85 engine. I haven't been able to run the numbers because I can't actually find them. It's supposed to be above the starter, but honestly, just like everything's so jam-packed in here, it's kind of hard to find the exact spot where that is at the moment. So anyways, this is Ford's early attempt at fuel injection, and this is the MBFSI, if I remember correctly, which they quickly phased out, which you can see it there, that's a motorcraft, and they quickly phased out for a more reliable throttle body system, kind of like what, or the tune port style that GM was using at the time, you know, and I believe that was 86 was that when they changed that, and this is an 85 because 84, I believe, would have just had a carburetor. They wouldn't have had any fuel injected options on it. So found that little bit out, which is cool. And as I was playing around with this thing, I noticed, hey look, all of the belts and pulleys are nice and loose, which is nice and see. And this is something that if you have a car that's sitting and if the belts aren't on it, like this is a serpentine setup, right, on this compared to what my 200 inline 6 is, where it's not. It has two separate belts, one for the power steering, one for the and one for the alternator and slash fan. So yeah, there's that. And I noticed some discrepancies when I looked up the VIN, because one site said this could have potentially been a ASC McLaren, which I don't believe that to be true anymore. I was kind of excited when I saw that, but then looking at it further, just like it doesn't have any of the proper, you know, ground effects on it. It doesn't have the clear lenses like they would be, so that would go, oh, that's not even in properly. So that would go in, right? Well, as far as you can get it. And then a clear lens would go over top of this. And there you go. Or would the clear lens go over top? I can't remember for sure. It's been a little bit. Anyways, so doesn't have that, and doesn't have the clear lenses going over the taillights. So I can deduce that this was probably just a base V8 Capri. So I mean, that's still pretty cool regardless, right? And something, because looking at the VIN is saying it's an 84, but if we take a look, just move those spider webs out of the way. I don't know, here, let's try this one. I was seeing this one a little better yesterday. You can't really see that, can you? I don't think you can. You might be able to see it. I can't know for sure. Sun's not in the right spot for it to be perfectly shining on there. But anyways, what I was looking at though there is our original thought was this was an 83 Capri. But honestly, don't think so anymore. Pretty sure that this Capri is an 84 now. Which would explain a couple of things actually, because at least on the Mustangs I know of, I'll show you. Well, I'll show you on this. Well, actually, here, let's go over to the Mustang here for a second. You know, there's my Mustang. And if we take a look inside, let me just put the seat back up. You'll find that the horn is not in the middle of the steering wheel. It's here. So, and until 1984, that was the case on the Fox bodies. I'm pretty sure for all of them. Maybe not the Lincoln Mark series, but the Capri and the Mustang definitely were like that. And this one, now there's not a battery in it, so I can't test the electrics and stuff, but I have tested them a bit. As you can see, that's where the horn is. So, which is not working, although, yeah, that stock, which is screwed, I mean, it's bent out in shape and not wholly in there properly, doesn't have the horn button on it, and you can't really push that in, so, yeah. So, I'm pretty like 98% positive at this point, especially with looking at the VIN on multiple websites and seeing that steering wheel with the horn actually in the middle where it should be, that this car happens to be a 1983 or 84, which is cool actually. You know, it's getting towards the end of its life cycle at that point. 1986, the Capri went completely out of production in North America. I think they were still building the European Capri over in Europe, obviously, which were imported from Germany. Cool little cars. I'd really love to have one of those Capris someday. And so yeah, that's some of the things I've learned, but also something else I learned while taking a look through this thing is if we have a look underneath, alright, maybe just take it off the stand here, hang on, here we go, try that. You'll see a Ford 8.8 in there, which is pretty cool, although you can tell the fuel tank straps are completely screwed, but you know. And also take a look back here, you can see a nicer exhaust under here, so we can deduce that this thing had a full exhaust except for, I'll show you under the hood, except for it has stock manifolds, but somebody did the rest of the exhaust, which, to be honest, actually I think it's probably easier to do the entire exhaust versus trying to do the manifolds and putting on headers on this thing, because I mean I'd want to put headers on it, but you know. So what I've been able to deduce from this information is that, you know, let's tilt that up a little more, sorry, is that this car, yeah, so I mean that's what I've been able to do, sorry, my mind's kind of going all over the place. And it's surprisingly a very clean car. It's got a little bit of rust here and there, but it's not too bad. Most of it I can patch myself. And when I start buffing out the paint, what I want to do to this thing, because I don't know, the more I think about it, the more I really want this car. It's just to keep it. Which is unfortunate because, well, I can't have two cars. I don't have the room or the money to really have two cars. And so that would mean having to sell stitch, which I have thrown it out to a couple of people here and there to say, there's been 2 people, but there was one guy that seemed more serious than the other one, that I threw out $3,000 just for shits and giggles, fully expecting him to say no, and he was tempted. But I also said that I get to keep the wheels, because I'd really want those on the Capri. Plus, in the fact that they actually have nice rubber on them, so, you know, I wouldn't have to buy new rubber, because that thing needs new rubber all the way around. And that's not a crack, that's just a, yeah, that's just a mud there, so don't worry about that. So yeah, and I'll show you actually the difference under the hood between that Capri and my Mustang, or excluding the blaringly obvious thing. So, if we take a look under here, like I mentioned, you know, so this has the 200 inline 6 in it, as you may know. Ford only put this engine in the Fox bodies from late 79 until mid 82. Late 82 models could actually have the 3.8 V6. Though, actually it may have been all the way to 83. I can't remember. Because before that, and some of the rarest of these Fox bodies you can find actually has the 2.8 V6, which is the same as the European Capri. Also the same engine as what the Pinto had when it didn't have the 4-banger, it had the 2.8 V6. So, yeah, which is, you know, those are some of the rarest Mustangs. Not particularly the most valuable, just some of the rarest. Because I haven't physically seen one yet. I've seen other ones with the 200. I've seen 255 V8 cars still with the 255 in them, which is pretty cool. Which they were just an economy engine. Basically a D-stroke 302. But yeah, and if we take a look here, like I mentioned on the other car. So, okay, you can tell that I have that one, but I don't have that one. So, this is definitely the original engine for the car, which who would actually swap this into this car, right? Like, if it was a V8 car, nobody would do that. It'd be a lot of work, considering you have to swap the K-member and all the different stuff between two. So, yeah, no, and it's just some interesting stuff that I was finding on the Capri, which I have a friend looking sometime later today, I believe. He'll be looking at, let's just back this up a ways. He will be looking at the, he has a book that can decode VINs and stuff like that, right? So, you know, and it's in his garage, and he said he was going to be down there today. So I'm just like, okay, cool. I'd like to know, for sure, what's all the information on this thing that I can find. Because again, I don't know 100%. I'm finding out stuff, but I'm not finding out everything. And actually, if it is an 84, everything else is saying base. But if I remember correctly, with the ASC McLarens, they were actually all base cars, and then it was on the body tag, potentially, that it was ASC McLaren. And I wouldn't really know for sure until I looked at the suspension, which, as you can see, the ground that I'm on, not conducive to jacking it up and taking a look underneath. So, because I had an adjustable coilover type thing, or maybe not an adjustable coilover, but an adjustable coil type setup on these, if I remember correctly, from the factory. So, and you could get them with the AOD or the 5-speed manual. This one has, or the T5 5-speed manual, which this has the AOD in it. I haven't looked to see if that's still an AOD, or when somebody swapped this engine, did they, did they swap the tranny too? Because it's definitely possible. And yeah, I mean, I've just been, thinking about it and seeing, okay, what exactly do I 100% want to do yet. And I don't frankly know. Like, if somebody gives me $3,000 for that thing, I'd consider it. But not that I really want to sell it. It's just, it's my first car. I love this car. I built it from the ground up. You know, the thing was a $500 wreck when I got it. And, you know, body-wise, it doesn't look much different than when I bought it. But everything is doing that. And I know that's a car that's actually dependable. I have no idea on this thing yet. But what I am going to do, though, is, because when I play with this thing a little more, I'm going to replace the starter solenoid, because when you turn it over, it just goes click, 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 which is indication of either a starter solenoid or the starter itself, more than likely the starter solenoid. So replace that, see if I can at least get this thing to turn over. If it turns over, then I'm going to put, you know, I'll check for spark. So I'll take out all the spark plugs and, you know, do that sort of thing. And see if she fires up. You know, put a jerry can, because the fuel tank, as you saw, is not in the car. And that fuel tank is absolutely garbage. I will need a new fuel tank. So, but honestly, I would want to replace that fuel injection for a carburetor, or if I could find potentially a later fuel injection system off of a later Fox body, I'd consider that, or even off of an F-150 or whatever else that had a 5-liter V8. Because I like carburetors and I understand carburetors, but I kind of also want to play with injection. And I think that'd be a cool thing to do to this thing and make it a lot more reliable than what a carburetor would. And the fact that I'd be driving it in the winter as well. So, because again, can only have one car. And I was thinking of the practical application for this car. Now, everybody will tell you, do not drive a Fox body in the winter. And honestly, I don't get it. Like, okay, if you had a ton of power and you were being stupid with it, yeah, you might crash it because they don't have the best suspension setup in the world. And sure, like the live rear axle and the front suspension, which is not a great system either, is very crude and rudimentary. It works. It goes down the road kind of smooth, and the handling's not bad actually. However, it's just not, like at the, if you look at the speedometers, on every Fox body ever made, I'm pretty sure, except for maybe a Cobra R, that, or maybe some of the later Cobras too, that on the speedometer, it shows a caution sign after 100 kilometers an hour, which is just under, well, 100 kilometers an hour is 62 miles an hour. So, and I'll show you that, because my car is just like this too. Because you see on the speedometer there, see where at 100 it shows that yellow line, which is basically caution. You know, and that was kind of Ford's way to get away with shit. Because, well, as we know, Ford was one of these companies, especially back in the 80s, that, and even during the 70s as well with the Pinto, that they would get around safety stuff all the time. You know, they would cheap out on stuff all the time. And it's just sad, you know, that they did that, but that's what Ford did for a very long time. You know, we can look at the Bronco 2, which if I remember correctly, it was like $10 a car it would have cost extra for them to fix the rolling over issue that those had. But it was like 10, 15, something like that. It wasn't a lot of money. I mean, it was a bit back then, but not a ton, right? But however, Ford decided in their infinite wisdom that it would actually be cheaper to pay out the lawsuits rather than actually fix the car, which they had to fix the car anyways because, well, it got recalled if I'm not mistaken. You know, same with the Pinto. The design engineers at Ford knew about the potential issues of the gas tank and how there's 2 bolts that in a rear end collision will puncture the tank and make it explode, or at least catch fire, right? And it was just it was a really bad design, and it was going to be like, I think, $2 a car to change it, and they decided, no, we'll just pay out the lawsuits, which was a ridiculous plan, I think. You know, don't get me wrong, I love a Pinto. I'd love to build up a Pinto, especially like a Pinto wagon, like 2-door wagon. That'd be cool. But, you know, those things that Ford did, that wasn't exactly the smartest thing to do. And they would cheap out on stuff all the time. Like on my engine, originally a 60s/50s era engine, it came out in, I believe, 1961 with the 144, then went up to 170, 200, and then evolved to the 250, which the intake and head are one piece, which I can show you. Because this is a 81-200, which you don't see these as much in these cars, because notice that right there. Notice that there's no actual bolts holding in that intake. It's just welded. It's cast physically into the head. So, and that was to save money on the machining, so it's left raw. And that also meant that they didn't need to do a intake gasket. Again, saving them, I believe, back in the 50s it was $5, which translated to today is probably around $30-40. But still, not that much money in the grand scheme of things, right? And so, yeah. But anyways, I think I'll end this here. I have actually some other videos potentially planned in the future. Might have a video coming out on Sunday. I'm going to a car meet tomorrow morning, so might see some cool stuff there. Who knows, maybe get to talk to some owners. We'll see. A little bit of a different video for you guys, if I'm able to actually do it. But anyways, yeah, and also I'll give you guys updates on the Shelby and the Turismo as I get them. I've had some interest. Nobody's come with cash yet, so nobody's even come yet in general. So we'll see what happens. But I hope you enjoyed this video. And, you know, if you're working on something, you know, let me know down in the comments. I want to see what you guys are working on. It is so cool to see when you guys comment and stuff. It really does make my day, actually. Whether it's complimenting my stuff or even just talking about your stuff. Because either or is fine with me. I don't mind. So, yeah. Anyways, I will chat to you guys later. Hope you're staying safe during COVID-19. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will chat at you later. Okay, bye! Pikachu!